Hello and welcome. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Leyna.
And this is
Pass Me the Booze, a paranormal podcast where we discuss the history and hauntings of local and not so local places while partaking in adult beverages.
In each episode, we share a different haunted place and pair it with a drink.
This week,
Eastern State Penitentiary.
So what are we drinking, Lauren?
So Mercury retrograde is in full swing this week for me. My plan was to drive down to Philly to get this special brew that they made for Eastern State, but my car was in the shop all week, so I had to compromise. Originally, the plan was to go to Triple Bottom Brewery?
Yes.
Yes, okay. That's in Philly, and they did like a special partnership with Eastern State. So like the special beer that they made was called Purpose Pale Ale, and they serve that at Eastern State's Beer Garden now.
Yeah, we wanted to go there, but
yeah, it just didn't work out. So instead, I picked something from a local brewery.
Yes.
It's from Victory, and it's called Brotherly Love. I just thought, Philly, Brotherly Love, that was appropriate.
And we love the local.
Yes.
All right, let's crack this open.
Crack this open. It's so satisfying.
It is. Well, so I hate IPAs normally.
It's definitely an IPA.
It's definitely an IPA, but it's not horrible.
No.
It's not as IPA-y as other IPAs that I've had.
No, and I know exactly what you mean. I don't know how to describe it because I'm not really seasoned in the IPA realm.
Yeah, but that thing that makes IPAs taste like an IPA is there, but it's not like punching you in the face like other IPAs.
It's not totally overbearing, and I think it's something I can sip on.
Yeah, and that's good because we're going to be sipping on them while discussing Eastern State. So this might end up being 2 episodes because we found just so much of a history and so much of like what's going on there now.
Oh my goodness, yes, so much information. I hope you're ready to learn some shit, folks.
Yep. So to start our journey into Eastern State, we are actually going to go all the way back to 1682-83.
That's my time traveling music.
Thank you, I loved it.
You're welcome.
All right, so, and this was the rough guesstimate of historians when the first jail in Philadelphia was built, and it was it consisted of a 5x7 room with bars on it.
That's it.
That's it.
Just the one.
Yes.
Like a sample jail.
So but the cool thing is so this was back in like William Penn's time. And William Penn did not like capital punishment. Okay. He actually abolished it and replaced it with hard labor. And it was the first instance in modern history where Commonwealth introduced such imprisonment as the standard for serious offenses and not just like petty things.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I like Mr. Penn's ideas.
Yeah. Penn had it like going correct. It's just,
Someone came in and fucked it up for sure.
And
That's why we're here.
Yes. So, with Penn, having his opinions and not liking everyone just being murdered for things like theft. Little things. In 1718, the Old Stone Jail in Philadelphia was built. Initially, Penn had set it up so that there were 2 buildings. A workhouse that also housed the criminals, and then there was another building for people who committed small crimes or who were not yet found guilty.
Okay.
So like small crimes in their minds. By the way, let's talk about this real fast.
Oh, tell me.
People who were in debt. Runaway apprentices.
Oh, runaway apprentices.
Yes. So like if you had an apprenticeship and you were like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
You could go to jail.
I can list you like 20 people that are already in this jail cell right now.
I'm in this jail cell right now. I gotta be honest. Because I left my GA ship early. I'd be in jail.
Oh, no.
I'm done, guys. So, in that same year, though, and here's where, like, people shat on William Penn's plans.
Okay.
a change in law made it so that the sanguinary and dishonoring penalties that were used in England were introduced into the American system. Mm-hmm. And a pillory and whipping posts were erected and commonly used in the jail and in public. So Market Street actually had a
whipping post,
pillory and a whipping post. So, so for people who don't know, pillories are those things that like you find at like now the Renaissance fairs, where you stick like your head in and your arms go on either side, like that like classic Renaissance poster. Mm-hmm. That is a pillory.
Oh, okay.
So the jail had one, as well as Market Street had a whipping post and a pillory.
Oh my gosh.
Fun fact. In public.
Used to live right by there.
Yeah. You lived where people were paraded out to the rest of the community and were like, they fucked up.
I'm gonna think about that forever now.
So, looking at my notes. So, one of the big things, though, that kind of fucked up Old Stone Jail was corrupt jailers and turnkeys. The impossibility of segregating the different types of prisoners, both by sexes and idleness, brought all the evils bewailed by the contemporary reformers of the mother country.
Boy, oh boy.
So this quote, I love this guy. It's a professor of sociology at the University of Pennsylvania. Okay. His name is Thorsten Sillen. Thorsten.
What a name.
Yeah, he studied all this shit, so it was real fun reading his little excerpt. So, all right, so 1776. The Walnut Street Jail, rather, is built to relieve the overcrowding and scandalous conditions at Philadelphia's Old Stone Jail, and it received its first prisoners. Because of the changes to Penn's plans, condition in Old Stone Jail and at Walnut Street eventually were appalling. All types of people were jailed together in disease-ridden, dirty pens where sexual assault and robbery were commonplace.
Oh no.
The jailers made little effort to treat prisoners like people, and things like food, heat, clothing, all of those things came at a price that you had to pay the jailers for. And to lead into things, they like would sell drugs and alcohol to the prisoners.
Oh my goodness. I'm curious though, they had to pay the guards. What did they pay them with? Because I can't imagine the prisoners have money exactly.
Well, that's part of it, and that's why a lot of people just died.
Oh no.
From either cold or starvation. But at this point, jail systems were not like what we think of in jail, like where, all right, you go into the system and they like take everything from you.
Yeah.
You go in to like this jail and you're just in jail.
Oh, okay. So
it's
whatever
like
you're
me
carrying.
taking you. Yeah. And like people can like give you money and you can like have your purse. But like that's a thing of like, okay, but robbery is commonplace.
I was gonna say that threw me off too. I'm like, wait, robbery? What are they robbing exactly?
It's literally like just taking a person and putting them in a locked room with a whole bunch of other people.
I can just imagine some people like that are about to get arrested, just like, wait, let me go back. I need my purse. I need my cell phone. I need my makeup kit. I need my wallet real quick.
Yeah,
I need to take all this shit with me.
Can you imagine if jails were like that in like the 21st century?
No, I cannot.
Like, friend, hold on, I need a gun.
I need to live stream from my cell today. This is gonna go viral.
All right, so like, but that was what was happening. So it was really fucked, really fucked. And the same things, all of those things were happening at Old Stone Jail. They built Walnut Street Jail to like kind of help with that and like kind of cut down on those abuses, and it did not work.
Kind of just spread from one to the other.
It was just another place to jam pack with people, and because William Penn had outlawed and like abolished capital punishment,
right?
You were just keeping everybody in these jails.
Oh goodness!
Like, and it was just a complete cluster.
Complete clusterfuck.
Yes. So in 1787. A penitentiary house with a capacity of 16 cells was added to the Walnut Street Jail to conduct an experiment on day and night solitary confinement.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So their theory was that if you isolated people completely, it would make them good people again.
Oh no.
So this experiment actually was done by a group that we will talk a little bit about now. So in 1790, Dr. Benjamin Rush officially founded. So the study, experiment was conducted by a group that was not officially founded yet. That's why it's even sketchier.
That's super sketch.
So Dr. Benjamin Rush officially founded the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons.
Oh.
That's a mouthful.
Ain't it?
Which was the first prison reform group in the world. So that part's this is where it gets interesting, because they are doing this with the best of intentions.
It sounds good on paper.
Yeah, it's just their methods. So Benjamin Franklin was actually a founding member and joined Rush's cause in August of 87, which was when Ben Franklin and Dr. Benjamin Rush set up the penitentiary house at the Walnut Street Jail.
Well, when you said 87, my mind went to 1987, so Benjamin Franklin and this other guy just
Nope, we're in the 1700s.
in their windbreakers, speed walking down the beach.
So, and then another fun fact is that this group actually survives to this day to promote correctional reform and social justice.
Mm-hmm.
It's now called the Pennsylvania Prison Society.
Okay.
So they're still alive and kicking and trying to make the system better. But I feel again, it's really good on paper.
Yeah,
but the methodology used is not quite helping.
Not doing so hot.
No, it's not really doing a lot. So in 1821, the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, known from here on out as PSAMP, because that's too much to say all at once, as many times as we're going to, PSAMP. PSAMP starts, or their lobbying has finally paid off, and funding for Eastern State Penitentiary is approved to hold 250 inmates in total.
Wow. Well, I mean, from what they were working with, that seems like a huge step up.
Exactly. It is. But, all right, that 250 inmates in total number.
Yes.
Keep that in the back of your head.
Okay.
All right.
Pinned.
Cool. 1822, construction begins. Fun fact for people who like Hamilton or history. In 1826, the Marquis de Lafayette visited the unfinished penitentiary.
Ooh, see, I'm not, I know nothing about Hamilton, but I'm sure people are very excited right now.
Yeah, any musical nerd.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. I was incredibly excited when I found that out. But no, he visited the unfinished building.
Ooh,
before heading back to France. So on April 23rd, 1829, legislation specifying separate or solitary confinement at labor is passed.
Ooh.
So that meant that instead of people being taken out of their cells and working in a communal workhouse, their labor was brought to them in their cell. And they were to be alone 100% of the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
So the reason for this is that PSAMP theorized that crime is a result of your environment and that solitude would make the criminal regretful and penitent. This correctional theory grew to become what is now known in history as the Pennsylvania system.
Oh, great. It has our name on it.
Oh, yeah, it does. But don't worry, it doesn't last long.
Oh, good.
I mean, it still is there, but, it doesn't last long at Eastern State.
Oh, boy.
So also, fun fact, they created the word penitentiary.
Oh, okay. Where does that word come from?
So
how did they come up with that?
It's that they thought that being in complete solitude would make the criminal regretful and penitent.
Okay,
so it was a penitentiary.
Wow. Very creative.
Thank you, Benjamin Franklin. So the penitentiary would reform inmates through penitence and labor. An idea formed by our dear Benjamin Franklin in the 1700s. and inmates were encouraged to reflect on their actions and wrongdoings in complete solitary confinement 24 hours a day. Plans are finalized to prohibit all contact between prisoners and Eastern State. So cells are equipped with feed doors and individual exercise yards to prevent contact between inmates and minimize contact between inmates and guards.
So they're like eating alone, chilling in their cell alone, working out alone.
Everything alone.
Just complete
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time.
So this is also when Passamp had the brilliant idea to make the prisoners wear masks. That are masks are fabricated to keep inmates from communicating during rare trips outside of their cells.
Ooh.
But it was claimed to be to keep inmates' identities secret so that when they integrated back into society, they couldn't be recognized from the prison.
Okay.
So, like, the again, on paper, that sounds like such a great idea, to hide people's identities so that you can't see what they, like, where they've been, and that they're just completely integrated back into society.
Yeah, so they're not, like, judged by the other prisoners or, like, in danger from the other prisoners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it makes so much sense, and that sounds like such a great thing. Until you think about the fact that they're putting masks on people so they can't see anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a fun time.
It was not.
It's very disorienting, I imagine.
It's cruel and unusual punishment is what it is.
Yeah.
Alright, so officially done building in 1829, Eastern State Penitentiary was the largest and most expensive public structure built at the time. Inspiration for the design of the building came from the asylums and prisons in Ireland and France in the 1780s.
Really?
So it was built initially. It does not look like this now. It was sort of built like a wagon wheel. Like if you were looking at it aerially, it would be a wagon wheel. So there was a central hub and then 7 spokes that expanded from the center, creating 7 different cell blocks that were completed at different points throughout its history. But each cell in the original plan and in the first 7 cell blocks, each cell had central heating.
What?
Flush toilets.
What?
Shower baths.
Oh my goodness.
And a skylight, which they called the Eye of God. But that was so that God could look in on them as they were repenting. And
see, that all sounds really nice, but I know this is about to take a turn.
Oh, yeah. But think about it at this point. Like, all right, so having a cell that had central heating, flush toilets, and shower baths.
Yeah.
Those were luxuries at the time that not even President Jackson enjoyed at the White House. The White House did not have an indoor toilet that flushed like this. Like, this was revolutionary technology being put into these cells. So it was like, you would think
these
that
guys
these were like good.
They're comfortable, they're gonna think about what they did, everything's gonna be fine, right?
Yeah, you would hope.
But not really.
No. So in the old jails, so in Old Stone and in Walnut Street, they were allowed all of their shit. Like, it was just taking people from the street and putting them in jail. This was the first time that people were actually being stripped of their worldly possessions, because it was supposed to help them be penitent.
Right.
So the only possession that they were permitted in their cell was a Bible.
Okay.
They had clothes that were given to them by the prison. Like, this is like the introduction of what we think of as when we think of prisons and jails.
Right. Here is just yourself. Here's like a Bible to reflect on what you've done and maybe a solution for you.
Exactly. So, October 23rd, 1829, Charles Williams is the first inmate. He was a black farmer and was convicted of burglary, which included a $21 watch, a $3 gold seal, and a golden key. Ooh. He was sentenced to 2 years.
2 years.
Solitary confinement.
Oh.
Let's keep in mind, they probably were not able to be like, you absolutely stole this. It was probably someone accused him.
Yeah, that's my thought. Considering the times. I don't think he should have gotten 2 years for petty theft. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. It really was. But That was
Sign of the times.
sign of the times and the first inmate. So in 1831, Block 3 is completed. So only Blocks 1 and 2 were completed at the time of the first prisoner. Block 3 was completed in 1831, and it was the last of the single-story cell blocks. Work begins on Blocks 4 through 7, and the plans to the buildings are changed to be 2 stories to accommodate the increasing number of convicts.
Uh-oh.
The last block, Cell Block 7, was created and completed in 1835.
Oh, wow. So they had to, like, quick build on top of it because they were just getting so many people in.
So that 250,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. I
That
remember.
quickly was like, oh, we need more space.
Oh, no.
So 1831 also had some interesting things. The first female prisoner was received at Eastern State.
Really?
Yes, that's right, guys. This was not a male prison.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was all male. I'm surprised that they kept females there.
Nope. Because William Penn didn't discriminate between the different sexes and housed everyone together. And in his ideal world, everyone would have been respectful and treated each other respectfully because they weren't,
Oh, William.
getting hung.
Mm.
Kind of be grateful for life. William Penn,
His heart's in the right
his
place.
heart is such in the right place. Thank God for Quakers. So,
God bless Quaker Oats.
that's his face.
Sorry.
Just every time you eat oatmeal now, think of William Penn and his impressively, progressive mindset on jail systems.
Come get some grains, friend.
Yeah. So, in 1831, Gustave, I'm gonna butcher these names, Gustave de Beaumont and Alexis de Tocqueville, 2 French dudes,
Good job.
visit to study the new correctional system.
All right.
And it was quoted, "Can there be a combination more powerful for reformation than solitude leads a prisoner through reflection to remorse, through religion to hope, and makes him industrious by idleness?"
No.
I don't agree with the conclusion that these gentlemen reached. However, they went back to France with their findings of Eastern State, and some real bad shit starts happening.
Uh-oh, over in France?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
They were sociologists of their time, though they were not called anthropologists or sociologists, but that's what they were. And they published their findings.
Oh dear.
So everybody started to hear about this wondrous new place.
Yeah, I mean, the way
with
he
the
put it.
Pennsylvania system,
Oh, shit.
Eastern State.
The way he put it was, beautifully put, but...
Oh, yeah.
No.
It's just, no.
Don't like the idea.
No. And, I mean, we're not even talking about the fact that solitary confinement literally drives you insane.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The mental health repercussions of what they're doing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an introvert. I love being alone, but humans are social creatures.
We are.
We gotta talk to each other sometimes to keep each other in check, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Huh. And again, it goes down from everywhere. Just all of this is just a fail.
We're just sliding down the slopes here on a bobsled.
Speaking of sliding,
Oh.
in 1832, the first escape happened. A prisoner slid from the roof of the front building.
What?
Well, it says that he lowered himself from the roof of the front building. Because most of the cell blocks are 1 story. The hub is 1 story at this point.
It's not that high.
So it's not high. He can just be like, bloop. So once he is captured, he actually escapes in the same manner in 1837, only to be recaptured again. This poor man tried so hard to get out.
It's like, I almost did it the first time. It's gonna happen the second time. I just know it.
Yeah. So then, also in 1834, the first investigation into the prison's finances punishment practices and deviations from the Pennsylvania system of confinement occurs.
Okay.
So it's people have served their time at Penhurst, at Eastern State, and then they leave, and then they make reports of, yo, this was not what you think it was.
So, like, their Yelp reviews
of time in jail were not good.
Oh, no.
And it was really bad, and that was in 1834. So think
1 star.
it was less than 10 years later. Right? Because it was built it was 1829. It received its first person in 1829. By 1834, people are already saying, you're not doing what you said you were going to do.
Right.
So, like...
And I'm sure they did not take that critique to heart.
Well, they did investigations.
Okay.
And presumably, people tried to make changes. There's no historical record of that.
Oh, no.
However, in 1836, remember our 2 French guys who came to study
Oui.
Eastern State?
Oui.
Governments throughout the world start to model prisons after Eastern State.
Uh-oh.
Because those motherfuckers
Fuck the French.
published their findings and made it sound so good. And it is good on paper. But it's horrible in practice.
Oh, no.
Also, 1836 saw its first... Eastern State saw their first tourist attractions. People began to travel to see the building. Now, keep in mind, at this time, this building was, like, again, the biggest and most expensive building we had.
Yeah, it's a commodity.
At the time.
I didn't think they would actually let people, like, come and see it as, like, a sideshow.
Well, and remember, it is a wagon wheel.
Yeah.
So, like, the cell blocks are inside of walls.
Uh-huh.
That create that circle.
Yep.
So people would go up to the outer wall and walk around. And keep in mind, this is also before it was in Philly. So this was outside of city limits. You had to travel to visit this place.
That's right. Yeah, I think of it now, it's surrounded by buildings. Like, I've driven past it so many times on my way to, like, school or whatever, just to think it's just surrounded by woods and just nothingness.
Yeah, and
That's crazy.
I have a friend who... I've asked, hey, you live around there. And have you ever gone? He's like, no, I pass it every day walking to work, though.
That's wild.
And it's like, you think about it now in terms of it's in the city. Mm-hmm. Back in 1836, though, was not. It was outside city limits by at least a mile.
Interesting.
And that was with the city still expanding.
Oh, yeah.
So people had to travel to do this. And one of those people who traveled to do this was in 1842, Charles Dickens visited the U.S. to see 2 places.
Ooh.
Niagara Falls, wonderful choice.
All right.
And Eastern State Penitentiary.
Wow. What a list.
And what a list. What a list of places to visit in America. Like, come on, man. But Dickens wrote of the system. The system is rigid, strict, and hopeless solitary confinement, and I believe it in its effects to be cruel and wrong. Charles Dickens is like...
He was on the right track.
Yeah. Dude had a head on his shoulders, you know? Like, why couldn't anybody else looking in be like, guys, maybe this is wrong?
I think there's something wrong here. I give him credit. He tried to call it out. I feel like he had a platform to do so. But...
And he used it.
Yeah.
It's just... But keep in mind, you had those 2 French fucks.
Oh, God.
And I have nothing against the French.
Yes, I was just kidding about the whole fuck the French thing. I'm sorry.
But it's... Don't cancel us already.
Please let me visit someday.
I'd love to go to France. But no, like, so... But those 2 guys wrote such a 8-star review.
Oh, no.
That nobody believed Dickens.
That's upsetting.
It's upsetting. By 1858, over 10,000 tourists visited Eastern State a year.
Wow. That's baffling to me, honestly.
It's because people, and again, on paper, it looks so good. But And because it looked so good on paper and people weren't actually they didn't know what was actually going on, they wanted to come see this wondrous place that was reforming and creating penitent
the world's
criminals.
gonna be a better place because of this. Oh,
like it
it's
was
so
like
wonderful.
It was like very utopian.
It's like a
thoughts.
castle.
Yeah, it looks like a castle. At this point, it looked like a castle.
Yeah.
All right. So then, 1874 to 1894, to accommodate the influx of prisoners, 4 new cell blocks are constructed without attached exercise yards to the existing cell blocks. So again, it's like a wagon wheel.
Yeah.
It has 7 spokes. Those 7 spokes had attached yards.
Yeah.
Some of them did not after this because in between those existing cell blocks, they created a new cell block.
Oh no. So what happened? Were they still allowed to go outside or?
It doesn't say.
Oh no.
But some of them still had a little bit of like an exercise yard.
Okay.
So my hope is that some people were allowed to go outside, but anyone stuck in these new cell blocks did not have the luxury of an exercise yard. They had no access to outside of their cells.
So they were just inside all the time.
They were just inside all the time.
Oh no.
So it was not great for those new people. And this is kind of where it starts to suggest in history texts that prisoners who were deemed bad or misbehaving were put into these types of cells and taken away from like the nice ones and put into these ones.
Oh no.
Yeah. So they kind of started, like the guards at this point started to like segregate and like maybe still not know their identities except for their little like prisoner numbers, but they were starting to be like, prisoner XYZ is a bad prisoner and they go in the bad space.
Oh no.
That's how they, and like they started doing that shit.
Yikes.
So also, because we're hitting like the 1900s now.
Oh, new century.
Yep, new century. Reports of opioids being found in the cells of inmates starts to increase.
Interesting.
So again, this is also, keep in mind, like they were not allowed to bring possessions in.
Yeah, so I'm wondering how they got in there.
Well, a deep hole in the ground.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. It would go back to what was happening at Old Stone Jail and Walnut Street Jail, where the guards and the Turnkeys were being like the dealers and providing inmates with quote unquote contraband. Classy people.
No.
But the opioid crisis in Eastern State, it just increasingly gets worse, and a lot of the recorded deaths are linked to overdoses.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And what's really fun is if you want to, you can look at like, because these are public records, you just have to know where to find them. You can go and you can look at old guard notes and reports. And there's just from like late 1890s to early 1900s, there's just a ton of reports in there of found insert drug type in an X and like cell block Y.
Whoa.
Inmate whatever
down to the very
is an opioid fiend.
Oh
that was the way they
God.
said it. I was like, yes.
Wow.
There it is.
He's a fiend, and I gave him the drugs.
He's an opioid fiend. An opioid fiend.
Oh no.
You gotta actually combine those two words.
The opioid fiend.
It was so weird.
I gave him
but
the
it's
opioids.
just it's page upon page of written notes like that.
Wow, that's
from guards.
Interesting.
And it's like the amount of opioids found in that time period was alarming.
Oh my god.
Like, oh, but also the guards were definitely their suppliers, so it's like,
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were partaking too. Like,
yeah, oh, definitely. And like it's just more to the point of this quote unquote Pennsylvania system failed miserably,
very
and
miserably.
even from the beginning, it was not working.
Just kind of set up to fail.
It was, because, well, I think about this. Who, and I don't want to offend a whole group of people, but who in their right mind goes, you know what would be a great job? I want to go guard people. I'm never going to know their faces or names, but I'm going to be the person who gives them food through a slot in their door, hopefully 3 times a day.
Oh boy.
Who does that? Like, I don't want to generalize here, but in my mind, at this time in history, only like severely angry and like mentally disturbed people want to be jailers.
Right. I feel like it gives them like a sense of control. It makes me think of that man, I'm gonna fuck this up. I haven't taken a psychology course in years, but it reminds me of that one case. I forget what it's called, when there were like 2 groups of people. Like, I think they were college students, and they split them up. One group would be the guards, one group would be the jailers, and you know, they just kind of let them go, and they were neutral at first, but over time the guards were like treating the quote prisoners as trash. Like, they got this entitled sense of power that they just started to abuse. And I'm wondering if, I don't know if that's
oh no, that's connected. It's definitely connected. And it's like I know that study, but there's also another one where you were given the power to give someone an electric shock. And most people, if it was in an anonymous situation where their identity was not known,
right,
gave the person the electric shock.
Oh no.
So like, think about this real hard. It's the prisoners are masked whenever they're outside their cells.
Yeah.
The guards do not know their names, do not see their faces.
They have no identity. They're just, they're a
anonymous.
prisoner. They did something terrible, and it's my job to keep them in line by whatever means possible.
Exactly. And because the prisoners are masked and cannot see their surroundings or the guards are also anonymous. Wow. And have that power dynamic of being in complete control.
Yep, they're like, I'm protected. They can't see me. They don't know who I am.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want.
That is
that's terrifying, and it led to
vicious.
It led to a lot of bad shit that you will not find any like official records of, but we know it happened, and we will talk about that after we talk about like the timeline of the place, because it was really fucked up.
Woo.
And again, it was back in 1834 when the first reports of those abuses were starting.
Oh man.
So we're only in 1900s. So in 1911, cell block 12 is completed and looks drastically different from the cells that came before it.
Do we have like an upgrade? Is this an upgrade?
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's a downgrade.
Oh no.
Because keep in mind, those first blocks.
Right.
You know, heating.
Uh-huh.
Flushing toilets.
They're like a studio apartment in
shower
California
bath
for $1,500 a month.
And that beautiful skylight to God for looking in on you while you gain penance. I don't know. So wedged between blocks 6 and 7, the block has 3 floors, 40 cells per floor. And unfortunately, instead of the beautiful arched ceilings that you find in the older parts of the building, instead of skylights, you find narrow, small windows on the sides of the building, like a normal window, but like little,
tiny,
and flat ceilings, so like regular ceilings.
Oh,
so that cell block 12 is the first cell block that starts to really look like what you would think of as a prison today. In 1913, Eastern State officially abandons the Pennsylvania system of confinement with solitude. Again, it's notable, though, that the system had broken down years earlier, with inmates sharing cells due to overcrowding and the abuse by the guards that was reported. Also, because of overcrowding, in 1923, female prisoners were removed and jailed elsewhere.
Probably for the best.
Definitely for the best. But think about this. 1923. That's almost 100 years.
Oh, God. No,
Because
yeah, you're
it
right.
opens in 1829.
Yep. It took them 100 years to be like, maybe
them
this is a good idea.
100 years to be like, maybe the females shouldn't be with the males in prison.
No.
And now, keep in mind why that was a bad idea in the Old Stone Jail and at Walnut Street, where sexual assault was commonplace.
Oh, my God.
And Eastern State took
like
100 years almost to realize this was a bad idea.
You think about the capacity, it's like doubled, tripled what it was at Walnut Street and Old Stone.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's awful. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah. And keep in mind, like, 200, like, it initially was supposed to be 250 inmates. And that 250 inmates, that number was so much higher than what Walnut Street Jail and Old Stone Jail could accommodate.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, well, I guess we've got to add on buildings and add on cell blocks. And they were, I had people in double rooms. So keep in mind, these rooms were small. Because it was meant for one person.
Oh, God, I can't imagine having like 3 full grown-ass men in this cell.
And at this point, they outright admit, we've had at least 2 people in a cell for a while now.
Oops.
And that insanity led to July 1923. 6 inmates, armed with pistols, successfully scaled the east wall after holding a group of unarmed guards hostage. And they had taken the guards, disarmed them, stole their weapons, and held them hostage for a bit, and then escaped.
Oh my goodness.
5 of the men were apprehended, but their leader, Leo Callahan, never was, and remains to this day to be the only prisoner who was never recaptured upon escape from Eastern State.
Good for you, Leo.
Yeah. Guy got away. Guy was smart.
Knows how to lead a team, and he's just like, well, never mind, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, and I looking at the history of it, it was they escaped together, but then they all kind of went their separate ways.
Yeah, they had to scatter.
One of those guys got so fucking far away that it's amazing that they found him.
Where did they find him?
I think it was somewhere like on a Hawaiian island.
What?
No, he got away and then got
fucking
recaptured
far.
and sent back to Eastern State. Like, he got away.
He was there. Oh no, that's terrible.
They found him somehow and sent him back. But he was on one of the Hawaiian islands.
I'm sure he thought that he made it. He was Gucci.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was like, I'm on Honolulu. I don't know if he was actually on Honolulu, but I'm on Honolulu. They're never gonna find me.
Tap tap.
And within 3 years, 5 of the 6 were recaptured and put back.
Whoa, they were really hunting them down.
Yeah. So, with the Pennsylvania system of confinement no longer in place, January 1924, a group of dining halls are introduced. Tablecloths are provided on Sundays and holidays.
Fancy.
With holiday decorations described to be a morale building factor.
Oh, wow. I'm going to keep my comments to myself on the attitude of corporate life on that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's a pizza party!
If that morale building factor wasn't good for you, I've got another one for you.
Oh, boy.
August 12th, 1924. Inmate C2559 is admitted. He was admitted for murder.
Okay.
The inmate was Pep, the cat murdering dog, who allegedly killed the governor's wife's cat. However, the reason for the dog's incarceration remains subject of debate, as newspaper articles reported the 2 different stories. One reported that he was a cat murdering dog. The other reported that the governor had actually donated his dog to the prison to increase inmate morale.
Poor baby.
It's up for debate. I hope, with all the hope I have in me, that it was that the governor donated his dog.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being as, like, either a guard dog for the guards themselves, or maybe, like, a first attempt at animal therapy.
I would hope. And there are really cute pictures of, like, Pep the dog walking the halls of Eastern State with guards.
Oh.
Like, looking like a good boy. But I also have no faith in humanity.
Yeah, especially this place. Shit.
Especially anyone connected to this place. So I can totally see this dog, like, maybe being a bad boy once, and then the governor's wife being like, get this dog out of my fucking house. And the governor being like, I don't know where to put it. I guess I'm just gonna put it in the prison?
I sent him to jail, honey. It's fine. Your silken pillows are safe from now on.
Well, you know what they say. And I'm gonna try not to kill myself after I say this, but happy wife, happy life.
Oh, no. Goodbye.
So my IPA is almost gone. How are you doing on your beer?
I'm almost ready for a second one. Can you tell?
Yes, and I'm also there too. I hope you all are as well.
We need a second one for part 2.
Oh, well, I think we're gonna be on like 3 or 4 at that point.
Yay.
We're halfway through the timeline.
Sweet. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
Leyna, do you know what I love?
A shot of Annie Get Your Gun with a chaser of ginger ale?
I mean, yeah, but I also love not leaving my house.
Dude, same. I love my bed and my blankets, and they have accepted me as one of their own, and if I leave now, they will never trust me again.
Don't compromise that relationship.
I can't.
But
especially right now.
Yes, especially during a pandemic. Don't leave your house. And the last thing I want to do is go out to the grocery store when I could just have everything I need delivered to my house.
Is that why you Instacart?
That is exactly why I Instacart. They can deliver fresh groceries straight to my door, sometimes in as little as 1 hour. Or I can schedule the delivery if I'm not going to be around.
Instacart now also has multiple options based on your needs, from pet stores to your local pharmacy, and our personal favorite, even alcohol.
Hell yeah.
And they even have a section for people who use food stamps, so you can find exactly what you need all in one place.
So follow the link in our show notes to go to instacart.com to get free delivery on your first order of $10 or more.
Instacart. Never take a step in a grocery store ever the again. Hey, Lauren.
Hey, Leyna.
How do we do this?
Do it.
Make our podcast.
Oh, we use Buzzsprout. Do you want to know one of the best things about it?
What?
You can start a show for free.
That's my favorite 4-letter F word.
Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcasts.
Buzzsprout wants their podcasters to succeed. So, in addition to distributing your podcast for you, you'll get a great looking podcast website, detailed analytics, promotional tools, and they'll even help you pick out the right equipment for you, and that's just scratching the surface.
So follow the link in our show notes to let Buzzsprout know we sent you and get a great deal on every subscription level. If you sign up for a paid plan, this also gets you a $20 Amazon gift card that you could put towards, I don't know, a new microphone for your podcast.
Oh, that's a low blow. And, of course, this helps support our show. So follow the link in our show notes to go to buzzsprout.com and join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world.
Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast.
1926. Construction begins on blocks 14, and it is the second 3-story cell block. Any space between the blocks is now completely gone.
Oh.
Officially, there are now 1,700 inmates.
Oh, no.
And inmates, it's important to note this, inmates are the ones building the new cell blocks.
Oh, no.
So keep that little tidbit in the back of your mind for later information.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. So part of their, they're not solitary anymore, but part of their confinement is hard labor. And now that labor includes building new cells for more people to be there.
Oh god, they're basically building their own graves.
Can you imagine, like, the psychological impact
No.
of... First, you kept us in complete isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're having us build the cells to do that to other people.
God, no, I can't imagine.
Like-
but at least, like, now a small, tiny silver lining. Are they at least, like, seeing each other for the first time when they're building this?
Well, yeah, because Pennsylvania system of confinement went out the fucking window.
right.
Because they finally admitted, yeah, we've been having, like, 2 or 3 people in a cell for a while now. Our guards definitely know the inmates' faces, maybe not their names. It's not clear.
Mm-hmm.
Because the physical abuses from the guards, they definitely saw their faces on some of those things.
Right.
So finally they were like, yeah, we're gonna stop pretending and we're gonna say fuck it. No longer doing that shit.
Here
Sorry,
you go.
guys. Here's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we're doing it. In 1929, Eastern State gets one of its most famous inmates.
Tell me.
Sir Al Capone spends 8 months in Eastern State.
8 months.
Between
That's it.
1929 to 1930.
Mm.
So how they described this room, though, I want... Quote for quote, I'm going to read it to you.
Tell me.
The whole room was suffused in the glow of a desk lamp which stood on a polished desk. On the once grim walls of the penal chamber hung tasteful paintings, and the strains of a waltz were being emitted by a powerful cabinet radio receiver of handsome design and fine finish. So this room is described as so fucking opulent and, like, fancy and just decked the fuck out for this guy.
He was spoiled. Oh my goodness.
And so the like, the theory around Capone was that he got himself arrested for some little thing, like I think it was like tax evasion or some shit.
Yeah.
So that he had an alibi for the Valentine's Day massacre.
That's
that
right.
he completely orchestrated.
Yeah. He wasn't there, but...
No, he wasn't there because he was in Eastern State. That's the thing, is this man, and it is like a theory that this man plotted that, got himself arrested so that he could be like, well, I of course didn't do anything with that. I was in jail.
What do you want from me?
What do you want from me?
That's really smart, though.
However, it is interesting to note that Al Capone experienced supernatural visits from a man named Jimmy, who Capone would scream all hours of the night for him to be left alone by him, like for Jimmy to leave. Mm-hmm. Jimmy is the name of one of the mob bosses who he orchestrated to be killed during the Valentine's Day massacre.
Yeah.
Do. Spooky stuff.
Goodness. I can't wait to tell you more about this story.
I'm so excited to hear more about that story. Just because from what I saw, this was like, keep in mind, this was a fun fact. Mm-hmm. This information that I have gathered comes from historical record. Mm-hmm. So it's like these were in the guards' notes about Capone.
Yeah, he was really causing a fuss.
It was recorded several times that Capone was, like, losing his shit in his cell because this quote-unquote man named Jimmy wouldn't leave him alone. But he was in there by himself. Capone was, like, one of those people who he actually did have a solitary cell still. No one was in there. The door was locked. Mm-hmm. And he insisted that Jimmy was in the room with him. And it's recorded throughout the 8 months that he spent there.
That's so eerie, because you think of Al Capone, he's like this hardened mob boss who's probably not scared of anything, but now he's like crying in his cell that there's like a ghost with him.
Yeah. But I think it's just really cool that it's actually part of the historical record. Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about how shitty Eastern State was.
Indeed.
So finally, in 1933, inmates set fire to their cells and destroy workshops in a riot. over insufficient recreational facilities, overcrowding, and idleness.
Enough is enough, they said.
Yeah, they pretty much were like, fuck this.
Set it all on fire.
And that riot lasted for a bit, and then everybody was kind of punished by the guards. However, in 1934, inmates riot again, this time over low wages.
Part 2.
And they did this. How they did this was really cool. Ooh. They short-circuited the electrical outlets, started fires, and created quote-unquote other disturbances.
So, like, distractions, like, oh, this is happening over here, but this is...
Yeah.
Ooh.
So this time, Warden Smith puts down the riot with a strong show of force.
Oh?
Lots of people got very hurt by the guards. He kind of let the guards just have free rein at this point and was like, yeah, do whatever you want to them.
That's never good.
And, like, there's no record that, like, absolutely says this, but when you look at this event and the date that it happened, and then you look at the death ledger in the year 1934, there's a huge fucking spike.
Oh.
Yeah. And now none of those deaths outright say, you know, this happened because of the riot and people got, like, bashed over the head by batons too many times.
Right, as you would think.
As you would think it would. It just, there was an uptick.
Interesting, because the guards were allowed to do, like, whatever they wanted
now. Whatever they wanted. And you can draw your own conclusions. The one I drew was people got, like, murdered. So in 1945, 12 men escaped through a tunnel that merges at Fairmount Avenue and 22nd Street. It's also important at this time, all men were, like, immediately captured because literally they, like, tunneled down. Like, this was the tunnel. Like, prisoners building the tunnel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
12 men escaped through that tunnel, and it came out at Fairmount Avenue and 22nd Street.
It's like on some Shawshank Redemption shit.
Well, I was looking and, like, I think Shawshank was actually inspired by this.
Ooh.
Someone else, like, fact checked me, but I could not find another story of men escaping through a tunnel that they created.
Yes.
In their cell.
Popping out from the ground on the other side.
Yeah, unfortunately...
It's too on the nose.
It's too on the nose. And unfortunately, though, all 12 of those men that escaped through the tunnel were immediately captured upon emerging out of the tunnel.
Boo.
In 1945, also, PA legislature recommends abandoning Eastern State Penitentiary.
Abandoning? Just up and just...
leaving it.
Shut it down.
Like, bye, guys. So, in 1953... Eastern State Penitentiary officially becomes the State Correctional Institute at Philadelphia, or, I didn't create this, but I wish I did. It's also known as SCIFA. SCIFA.
SCIFA?
SCIFA. Like sci-fi, but SCIFA. Because it's they abbreviated to SCI-PHA.
It's the Philly version of sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. So in 1958, the city of Philadelphia certifies Eastern State Penitentiary as a historic property. Now this and we talked about this with Pennhurst a little bit, where it protects the buildings and protects the property.
So you can't knock it down.
Exactly. So this just protects Eastern State.
Okay.
In 1961, the cell blocks are desegregated.
What does that mean? What happens? I mean, the women are gone now, right?
The women are gone, but up until this point, blacks and whites, and any other ethnic race were not permitted in the same cell blocks. In 1961, desegregated.
Gotcha.
1965, federal government designates Eastern State Penitentiary as a historic site landmark, National Historic Landmark. So it's now officially on the list by the government.
On the list, VIP, you're in.
Yep. And again, that's just more of it protects Eastern State.
Yes.
And it kind of tries to preserve the history. January 1970, Eastern State Penitentiary closes. Most inmates are sent to the State Correctional Institution at Greater Ford. While the penitentiary's electrical and mechanical systems are in horrible disarray, its walls and paint are in perfect condition, And it's because the inmates were the ones doing it and keeping it up and, like, keeping the maintenance of that stuff up. But because they weren't skilled labor...
I mean, they seem to have a knack for it.
They did. But like, so, like, it was, like, cleaning the walls and keeping them, like, freshly painted. Mm-hmm. So imagine having, like, a workforce of, like, menially skilled people.
Yes.
Just keeping a place looking really nice. Uh-huh. However, because you don't have skilled labor,
right?
The electric, and like mechanical systems,
I'm sure
like
the plumbing was fucked.
Everything was fucked. But it looked really pretty.
They were on the right track.
They tried, but they also their budget didn't allow for them to have people who would keep up that maintenance.
Yeah.
And again, the inmates couldn't do it because no one knew what they were doing.
You didn't teach us this shit.
Yeah. So it looked real pretty when it closed, except for it needed to be completely gutted.
Pretty on the outside, complete trash on the inside.
Exactly. So, from 1970 to 1971, even though Eastern State Penitentiary is closed, the city of Philadelphia uses Eastern State to house prisoners from the county prison at Holmesburg because there was a riot there and they destroyed so much stuff that they didn't have, like, acceptable living conditions for a lot of the people, so they brought them to Eastern State.
The conditions there had to be bad if they're like, yeah, just bring them over here where it's just full of poop and bad wiring. So, 1971 to the mid-1980s, Eastern State is abandoned. The city uses it as a grounds for storage. Vandals smash windows. An urban forest grows in the halls and cells. However, one hero stands above the rest. Dan McLeod, the last city caretaker, continues to feed a family of stray cats living on the property. Oh, bless you, Dan.
I honestly read that and I was like, oh my god, he deserves a shout out.
So precious.
Dan McLeod, everybody.
Yes. Wonderful.
So, in 1980, the city of Philadelphia buys the title of the building, paying the state of Pennsylvania around $400,000.
Oh, wow.
So it goes from Pennsylvania owning Eastern State to Philly owning Eastern State.
Ooh, a Philly exclusive.
Philly exclusive. And they only paid $400,000 for it. Can you imagine buying something like Eastern State today?
No, I find houses on Zillow that are like $500,000 for like 3 bedrooms.
Exactly. And they got Eastern State for $400,000.
Holy shit.
That was a steal.
They're like, here, just fucking take it.
Yeah, they literally, Pennsylvania was like, you want to claim it? Cool.
We don't want this.
It's yours. In 1984, the city transfers Eastern State Penitentiary to the Redevelopment Authority to seek proposals for commercial use.
Okay.
Now, the unfortunate part of this means that Eastern State probably would be knocked down.
Oh no.
If this went through. Because it would have been commercial use. So, like, how do you repurpose this space for money?
You gotta knock
Capitalism.
It down. Yep.
And keep in mind, this building looks really pretty, except for now it really doesn't because people have been destroying it with vandalism.
Yeah.
An urban forest is described growing in it. And maybe the walls inside might look nice, but the plumbing, the electric, and every other mechanical aspect of the building is fucked. So I can understand why PA was like $400,000.
It's a complete rehab.
Yeah. So 1988 Eastern State Task Force is formed to protect and preserve Eastern State. Mayor Wilson Good urges to reject all proposals for commercial use of the property, and the first limited group tours of the building begins.
Exciting.
Yes. So, then in 1991, with generous funds from the Pew Charitable Trust's preservation efforts begin.
Yay!
So they start to try and make this place look nice and, like, you know,
presentable. Let's get out all these gross poopy pipes.
Yes. And then in 1994, Eastern State Penitentiary opens for historic tours on a daily basis.
Ooh.
In 1995, a permanent museum is constructed, and the site is used for art exhibitions, cultural performance series, and other such events.
Oh, that's lovely.
It is. Eastern State's arched cell blocks in the original 7 blocks are used as the set for the movie 12 Monkeys, starring Brad Pitt.
What? Really?
Yes.
I didn't know this. I've never seen that movie, but now I feel like I have to.
I've seen parts of it. I did not know it was at Eastern State, though.
That's cool.
Yeah. So then in 1998, Eastern State is again used for a set of a movie called Return to Paradise, as well as the Eastern State Penitentiary Historic Site, Inc., a non-profit organization, is created to keep the property preserved and open for tours.
Awesome.
In April of 2000, the cell of Al Capone is restored to its former glory.
Oh boy.
So they put the paintings back up, they put the polished desk with the lamp back in, and they put a radio back in that plays waltz music.
Oh, fancy. I would have loved to
Fancy.
have been his, like, cell neighbor.
Yeah, because then you get to, like, listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I would have loved to be Al Capone.
Well,
you know. So it's also important to note, like, so at one point in, I think it was like the 1800s, 1900s, 10,000 visitors a year would be coming to Eastern State.
Yep.
In 2002, attendance exceeds 65,000 visitors in a single year.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Holy 65,000.
Yeah. So in 2003, the first audio tour is offered in celebration of the 10th season of tours. Guests can now hear cell doors slamming, guards issuing orders, televisions and radios playing from the cells, and for those very few who had the stomach for it, they were able to listen to the 1961 riot breakout.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So, like, it was like surround sound of an audio tour of what it would have been like when the prison actually was a prison.
It's like a full immersion. It's like a silent disco except prison riots.
Yeah. In 2005, Cell Block 7 opens for the first time for public visits. So the last of the original spokes, cell blocks rather, opens for people to be able to see what they initially had envisioned for this prison. And then, because of all of the money coming in and the preservation efforts at Eastern State, in 2008, visitors are no longer required to sign liability waivers upon entry.
Oh, is it because it's, like, safer to peruse?
Yeah. So it's they were able to get the building to such a space and to such a point that it was safe for people to go in.
Okay.
And, like, they felt confident in having visitors, enough so to the point where, like, you didn't have to sign away your rights to sue them if you got hurt.
You're fine. No bricks are gonna fall on your head like at Penhurst.
We secured that shit. And finally, in 2017, the Eastern State Penitentiary Historic Site adopts a new mission statement with a focus on interpreting criminal justice reform. And now, you can still go on tours. And in, I believe it was 2020, the brewery that we wanted to visit and get our beer from, Triple Bottom Brewery, assists in opening a beer garden at Eastern State, which brings us full circle to our Brotherly Love IPAs.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers.
Sweet.
So, some other notes. There were well over 1,000 entries in the death ledger.
Yes, tell me about that.
Which documented which inmates died and by what calls in the years that Eastern State Penitentiary was operating.
Okay.
So keep in mind, this was, the death ledger was only kept so long as it was Eastern State Penitentiary. So when it became SIFA, this was no longer being kept.
Oh, so there's probably a whole bunch of people missing from this.
A whole heap of people missing from this. Because this is only for Eastern State Penitentiary.
Oh, goodness.
The youngest person recorded in the death ledger was a Mary Ash.
Mary.
Who was 11 years old and convicted of arson.
Oh my goodness, Mary!
Yeah.
What did you set on fire, honey?
I don't know, but she did something.
Oh no.
There was the spike I talked about earlier.
Yes.
There was also a spike in the number of deaths from 1881 to 1882 due to a tuberculosis outbreak.
Oh, yep, sounds about right.
Yep. And then another, like, tidbit note is over 50 reported suicides were in the ledger.
Yeah.
And over 50 reported murders were in the ledger as well. One of them being a murder-suicide, where the gentleman murdered his cellmate and then killed himself.
Yikes.
Fun facts. So I talked a little bit about the punishments that the jailers and the guards dished out to the prisoners.
Oh,
and we
gosh,
talked a lot,
yes.
like, because like the animated, like they had that power play.
Yeah. No one else is happening.
Punishments ranged from reduced food portions to less time outside, and less time outside to physical torture.
Uh-oh.
In the winter, inmates were dunked in a bath and hung up on the walls so that ice would form on their skin.
How many people survived this?
See, that's the thing, is because the guards knew what they were doing was wrong.
Sure.
So some of this is recorded that they did this, but when they would record a death in the death ledger, they would change it up.
Just to cover their own asses, so we don't know if, like, people would actually survive this kind of torture.
Well, and it's like, in this instance, an iron gag secured to an inmate's mouth, ripping the tongue and mouth, while hands were tied behind their backs.
Oh no.
The record shows that on June 27th, 1833, 40-year-old Matthias McCumsey was tortured using this device for talking.
Oh no.
All he did was talk. He died as a result. However, it was ruled that he officially died of hold on, I'm going to try and pronounce this right. Apoplexy, which is the severe bleeding of a cavity or organ.
Oh no.
So there's a ton of shit like that in the death ledger where it's like, oh, well, he died of apoplexy. I'm not able to say this word, guys.
It's lots of bleeding.
He just bled a lot. But it doesn't say he bled a lot because you put something in his mouth that attached to his tongue, and then his hands were attached behind his back, and it ripped his mouth and tongue up so badly he bled to death.
It's the funniest thing. I don't know what happened.
It's so bad. There was also the mad chair, where prisoners were bound so tightly that circulation was cut off of their hands and feet, and sometimes they were permanently injured, and this also led to amputations.
Ooh, yeah, you're cutting off all the blood and shit.
Yeah. Some had tongues chained to their wrists, so if they struggled, their tongue would be ripped out.
Oh no!
And for serious infractions, because the things I just described were not used for very serious infractions. They were used for things like talking.
This is like some medieval shit.
The prisoners were sent to, quote-unquote, the hole, as fucking, stereotypical as that shit sounds, which was an underground and completely devoid of light cell. You would have no human interaction, and very little food and water for weeks on end.
Oh no, it's like these people are already suffering in solitary confinement with like almost no light, minimal food, no communication, and now it's just like solitary confinement 2.0.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Like and the way that it described it, it was completely devoid of light. There was no light.
Oh my goodness.
Even when you were given food, if you were given food. You could not see what you were eating.
Ew. And
there were several entries into logs that suggested rancid and rotten food was being fed to these prisoners in the hole.
Imagine just like, oh god, I haven't eaten in days, and like just biting into it and there's like a bug. Or
I don't think people cared. If there was a bug or mold, they ate it anyways, which probably got them sick.
Yeah.
Like it's the way that people were treated at this place and the just inconceivable pain and torturing that happened.
Ooh, no living thing should be treated this way.
But it doesn't It makes so much sense that so much spooky shit is recorded happening at this place.
No doubt. The amount of negative energy.
Mm-hmm. So I will do a quick overview of what I found in historical record and like actually things that people recorded.
Yep. Tell me.
And then you will tell me the spooky shit you found.
I will.
Or do we want to keep this for part 2?
No. We'll do a nice segue.
Segues. Sweet.
Segue. Tell me what you found.
All right. So there are several accounts of hearing someone crying in extreme pain as if they are being tortured.
Well, that's no surprise, is it?
And so it's important to note that some of these are people when they first started being able to visit Eastern State in these group tours.
Yes.
Were reporting this to the tour guide, like the tour guides were reporting it, the tourists were reporting it to like the people running the tours. Going, what the fuck is happening here, guys? Are you still having people here? Like the reports were like people genuinely concerned that something bad was still happening here. And because that's how real it was for people who experienced this. Observers claim that they've seen orbs or streaks of light appearing and disappearing while taking the nighttime tours. Many say they hear footsteps throughout the halls. Visitors have often alleged that they heard someone calling them by name and then vanishing.
Ew.
So there were several accounts, and like reading them was funny, of visitors claiming that, you know, they visited and then a disembodied voice would start calling their name and luring them away from the group.
Ew, this is just like the music box from Penhurst.
Yeah.
I don't like this method of like...
And like, that was... And I don't know how much credence I give to some of the accounts because that was what some people claimed for why they left the tour group.
Okay.
So like some of these people were like, you get pulled into the security office and like asked, why did you walk down XYZ hallway when you weren't supposed to? The rest of the tour group went that way, you went this way. Oh, why? And a lot of people claim it's because they've heard someone calling their name. I'm like getting all stuffy. Allergies.
Love it.
They claim it's because they heard someone calling their name and followed the voice.
That seems like a typical excuse to be like, why did you leave? Oh, you know, like I saw a spooky ghost. But if it's something that's like repeated over and over from different people, like I heard my name, it gives a little bit more credit to it, I feel like. But
it does, but there's still that like, is this real, or are people just not wanting to get in trouble for walking away from the tour group?
Exactly. That's some shit I would do, honestly.
I would do that shit. I'd be like, nope, so I felt someone pulled me that way. I followed it. I don't know. So then visitors also often alleged feeling someone tapping their shoulder, but when they looked around, no one was there.
I don't like that. Don't touch me.
I don't like that either.
I'm scared.
But it was, according to what I read, it was like people who were like at the back of the group. So like it definitely wasn't like someone in their group.
Right. Someone who's a little more isolated.
Yeah, which gives, I think, more credit and like credence to those types of reports. And then also a lot of the tourists report loud, sadistic laughter, the sound of cell doors opening and slamming shut, as well as door handles jiggling are heard, like someone trying to get out.
Oh no.
And you know, also like our Penhurst stories, furniture being dragged across the floor.
Oh, we love some furniture across the floor.
We need to know the speed though. I want to know, was it fast or slow? Please let me know.
Both are bad, but I feel like I just gotta know.
Yeah, both of those are bad. The middle is like what we're more comfortable with, ghosts.
A good pace.
And then lastly, but not leastly, what I found most disturbing was the several accounts of people hearing the sounds of babies screaming inside cell block 7.
What?
Yeah, So
Baby?
let's keep in mind that for 100 years, women were kept in this fucking place alongside men.
Oh no.
Let's keep in mind for those 100 years, the guards were torturing people physically. And let's also keep in mind, historically, at Old Stone and at Walnut Street, sexual assault was commonplace.
I didn't even think of that.
So do I
Oh, no.
definitely think that guards sexually assaulted the female inmates,
yeah.
and that resulted in quite a few pregnancies in those 100 years that women were there too?
Ooh.
Yes. Yes, I do. So.
Yeah, babies are the last thing I would expect to hear in this place.
I'm
I'm glad
yeah.
you told me, because if I were to encounter such a thing, I don't know what I would do.
Cry.
Cry.
I have to just say, I would just
also cry.
bawl.
Yikes on bikes.
Yikes on bikes. However,
oh my gosh.
that is the historical aspect, and I think...
What a note to end on.
What a note to end on. We're gonna have another beer.
Yes.
And we will see you in part 2.
Yes, part 2. I'll talk about all the spooky shit, and we'll be slightly more drunker.
Hopefully, stay tuned. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Be sure to follow us on our socials at Pass Me the Booze, spelled BOOS. We're going to try and post regularly with previews to upcoming episodes, as well as our drinks of the week. If you partake in the drink of the week while listening to our episodes, please tag us. We'd love to see it.
We also want to start reading some of your stories at the end of each episode, so if you have a scary story that you'd like to share, you can send that to passmethebooze@gmail.com with the subject title Bonus Booze. Again, that's BOOS. These can be anything from personal ghost stories, UFO or cryptid sightings, even true crime. We want to hear it all. We also welcome drink suggestions, so if you're a bartender, hit us up, or just a boozy aficionado. Lastly, please consider giving us a nice rating wherever you might get your podcasts.
It really helps us out in the rankings and will allow us to keep making the show and making it even better.
And tell your friends, tell your families, tell your dog.
We have some really big plans for the podcast, and we would love to be able to make that happen for you all.
And I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye!